Hello and welcome to the What No One Tells You podcast. Today I am joined by Matt Denholm. Welcome. So Matt is the Chief Investment Officer at TreeArc Investment Group and co-owner and Executive Director of Hoops Capital, which also owns the Sydney Flames and Sydney Kings. Thank you for being with us today. Let's get stuck into it. So you were actually a member with us here at Work Inc. for a while, and now you've moved up the road because the team has grown, which is excellent news. So Matt, start by telling us about your role today and what you do, and then I want to go back and understand how you came to be in this position.
No, absolutely, and thanks very much for having us today. It's nice to be back, and it's good to see how everything is going here. So, TreeArc Investment Group. Look, it's our family office. We started putting the family office together in sort of 2020 and incorporated in 2021, and the family office really was incorporating our family values, the things that we believe the future of Australia and the world can look like, and really impact investing across those things. And we invest across three core pillars for the family office as well.
Yep. What are those three pillars? So
the three pillars that we invest in are climate and environment, science and technology, and community and pathways. And happy to go into as much detail around those as.
So why those areas?
I think, for us, when we started the family office, we sort of sat down and said, what are the things that we believe where we should go, where we should head as a country, and what do we ultimately enjoy? I think that it's really key for spending your days doing things that actually make a difference to you and the things that you want to do. And so, look, climate and the environment, I did a environmental science degree at university when I finished school. It was something that it's always been really passionate about. We invest across multiple businesses, from the energy transition to things that are doing regenerative agriculture, things that are basically looking to change where we're at and where we can be and how things can shape the world in a better place. Science and technology, look, we're here because of technology. I think that we've got a big belief that there's not been a step change and a change in sort of a change across the world has all been through technology change. And so we look to invest in tomorrow's technology founders and technology businesses, and the science behind it and how important that is a core belief of our family. And then community and pathways. This probably manifests itself most subsequently in the basketball businesses, and so we're the majority owner of Hoops Capital, which is the Sydney Kings, Sydney Flames. Sport's such an important thing. We think that sport brings communities together. I think it's a fabric, particularly in Australia. I think it's a fabric of society. My mum will often tell stories. She was first generation born in Australia, and the thing that brought her together and what made her feel included in the Australian lifestyle was sport. And so we love particularly basketball, and we think that that's such an important thing for community fabric.
Great. So you have the three pillars where you will normally or typically invest. So what happens in that process? Do businesses approach you? Do you approach businesses that you are interested in? How does that work?
I think it's a combination of both. And so, over the years, we see hundreds of different opportunities every year. And the things that are, and how they sort of typically manifest is either, particularly depending on the pillars, we'll either be sourcing externally. We know that for some of the bigger investments, there are funds looking for capital and which we're looking to deploy into, or for the startup founders. And so we've done everything from company idea all the way through to Series D. And for the ones that we've gone and found, it's through pitch nights, it's through connections through the local ecosystems. It's really it's a little bit of that, but then there is the inbounds, and so every now and again there is a really compelling founder who you take a meeting with and they can tell a story that you absolutely believe in, and you go, this is somebody that I want to back, and this is something that we think can be that change.
Yeah, and that is really interesting. So if you are talking to a founder with an idea, what are you looking for in them to determine whether they can take something that you are giving them and investing, and that they will have the ability to grow that?
Yeah. I think depending on where they are at in their journey, and I think, but the most important thing, and the thing that we look for with founders, and that almost the starting point is two. One, is the idea aligned with our pillars? We're really intentional in that, and it's something that we've looked back at our 6 years of investing, and 90 to 95% of the investments we've done to date fall in line with those pillars really nicely, which is great, and not always achievable in these things, which is fantastic. But for the founder specifically, what we look for with those is this their life's work? And I think it's such an important thing. You spend so much time in startups, in your businesses, and in your working career. Is this the thing that you wake up thinking about? Is this the thing that you want to spend your time doing?
Yeah.
Because ultimately that's what it needs to be. And it's not to say that will be the thing that ultimately leads to success at the end of the day, but it's got to be the starting point. It's got to be the thing that you think about, you talk about, your conversations revolve around it, and it's the people you gravitate towards. And that's what we love about founders, and what we look forward to so much so in them.
Yeah, great. And I think that even from personal experience, I had an investor who he would normally invest in very large companies, tech-related. I had a donut brand, and the person did invest into my business. Did they necessarily want to invest in a donut brand? The answer is no. But were they backing a founder, someone who lived and breathed and really believed in what they were doing? And I think that I would consider that to be one of the most proud, or the biggest highlight of my career, because someone like yourself backed and believed in what I could do. And I can definitely say that I made it a mission that after that belief was solidified, that I was absolutely not going to let that person down. So it's really important that you have that two-way relationship.
100%. I think it's what you look for. I mean, I think respect in these relationships is a really important thing. I think that just as much, and I'm sure that that investor saw the hunger and the want for you to succeed and things like that, and that makes you want to back people in that regard. I think that respect and shared values are such a core thing in everything that you look for in these companies. And so often it can be, it's not the thing that you grant. I didn't set out today to invest in company X, Y, and Z, but you meet people and who are so compelling, and I think people is the core to so many of the different things that you do in your life.
Other than financial support, what other support would you give these founders who are approaching you, or these people that you're believing in?
Yeah, I think so. Financial support is a key one, but I think what we've developed, and when we set out on the family office journey, it was just the three of us. It was myself, my sister, and my mum, and my sister and myself were sort of in the day-to-day, and we sort of went and thought that would be how we would look going forward. And what we subsequently found as we grew and made more investments and saw what companies needed. They needed more than the financial. It was either each one of them is different, whether it's from financial support to PR support to all of those things. What we found was that we could actually bring through our networks and subsequently grew our team to actually be able to provide services back into those businesses that could then take them on that next step. And so it's knowing what your expertise in, and we have a strong financial background of what it looks to grow and scale a company, and how can we then assist that founder to do those things.
Incredible to be a part of that network.
Yes. Yeah.
And you mentioned that, so when you started there were the three of you, and now you've grown your team to around 15, is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. So we've grown the team a lot over the last few years, and what we found was when it was sort of the three of us, and as I said, it's the way that the family office is involved is we sort of thought we'd be passive capital. We'd sort of come in, sort of do the things, and as we got more ingrained, more involved, and more into it, the thing that we know that we needed to do was, one, grow our team around us. Is that it was sort of, we were finding that we would be quite stretched thin on trying to do everything, and the thing that we are not, we're not short of accepting a challenge and growing with that, and so we found we needed to grow the support around us to actually then subsequently help the companies that we've invested in and things like that from there. So.
And what was the first hire, first position that you determined that you needed in that growth journey?
Yeah, so we hired a finance and legal person, sort of almost as hires 1 and 2 that happened right at the starting point. And for those, we know that we brought some additional finance help in because as we were growing and we needed to have that financial expertise to then continue to help to grow some of the companies. And the legal part, we know that on the legal side, it's the part that between contracts and everything, it can be the part that trips founders up the most, because they spend so much time in areas or agree to a contract that is not quite where it needs to be. And so that legal support was a really important piece to then go, 1, are our rights protected? But 2, is there things that they can help support any of our portfolio companies that could then help them grow from there. And so, and then it was sort of going from there. We've sort of brought some PR help in between, because if you can help tell the stories, that makes a big difference. We've brought a chief of staff on who helps really just make the machine run and everything from there. And so, and subsequently a director of community who really works day to day with our portfolio companies to understand what their needs are. And so I think that's been a really important hire as well, because if we know what our companies need, we can then provide it, and that day-to-day touch point and support person makes a big difference. Yeah,
and I guess that goes back to what you mentioned is one of your key pillars, that community, so it makes sense. What is the investment that you're most proud of?
That's a great question. Look, I think I'll give two answers. I think, look, one of the things that we set about and we wanted to invest in straight away in that community pillar was basketball. Basketball is a sport that holds a really close spot to our heart as a family. It's a sport that I've been following and playing all throughout my life. Born in Sydney, moved to Melbourne. Basketball was booming in the 90s with the basketball teams there, and so our investment into Hoops Capital to be initially to be the minority owner and now the majority owner of the Sydney Kings, Sydney Flames has been amazing. The Sydney Kings won the championship last year for the NBL. It was the game. Thank you very much. Game 5 was the most watched basketball game in Australian history, and so look, we love that investment. It takes up a lot of time through passion and just general strategy and execution time. And so that one, look, I think that will always hold a special place in our heart. I think one of the other investments that we've made really early on was into a company that's now called Sienta, and we met a solo female. She was a female founder, had a co-founding team around it, and where she's grown that business to where we first met her is truly incredible. So they're sort of they're potentially changing the way of chip manufacturing worldwide and down the thing. And so we're excited by those kind of founders who build something and grow it to a certain scale. And I think that. It's been incredible to watch some of these journeys over the last few years. Yeah, so, that is amazing.
Yeah. And that's definitely one thing that I can say that I love even about being here at Workinc, and it's that, companies come in when they're at early stages, they may have 2 people in the team, and then prior to them leaving, they grow to 15, 20 plus, or they get acquired, and it's so lovely to see that growth. And I think that that's what really drives me to come to work every day. So I can definitely understand why that would be so important. Now, I want to move to basketball shortly, but before we do, I have just a couple of very quick questions about the family office. So, what is it like working with family, and do you is there a way to have that separation?
It's a really interesting question, and something that we think about a lot. Look, when we started the family office, we didn't know how we would work, how that would go, what the separation would be, all of those things. I think we had a close relationship, a good relationship. Myself and my sister we're very different, and we said to each other, look, how are we gonna work together and things like that. And what we've found is that the way that we set it up, the way that we talked about the things that were interested to us, we do have those shared family values, and even if we won't get to the answer in the same way, we're looking to achieve the same common goal. And I think that we really lean into the parts that work well for us. And we sort of let the other do the parts that are better for them. I think it's good that we are different, because we both know our strengths and weaknesses and which parts we both do well and don't, and so that has been really good. I think it's there's with a family office there's times where we can be siblings and need to be more serious at times than we sometimes can be. But I think it's worked really well. I think that and then I think Mum keeps us in line as well. She's I think, and then how does that translate outside of that? I think the basketball shared passage is one of those things that we talk about that when we're not at work and things like that. That works really well. But I think it's brought us closer together.
Yeah.
Every family's going to have disagreements and things like that, but it's actually really nice to work together so closely and things like that. And 6 years in, I wouldn't have it any other way. So it's been great.
Yeah, great. Yeah. And now your mother is Robin. So was there a point growing up where you realised that your mother was such an influential powerhouse?
Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, I think growing up, Mum started working at Sun Microsystems. I think it was 95, 96, that sort of time. And then, you sort of be at school and people are like, oh, what do your parents do? All that kind of thing. And at that point in time, I was just like, oh, Mum works with computers. Like that's she does that, and that was the easier answer. But then I think as things, it was sort of, there was different job changes, then there was always, there became more impressive sounding job titles and things like that. I think we always knew that she was impressive and important. I think that work was always such a central core belief of what we believe in as a family. I think we saw that even from my grandparents. So they had a service station in Milpera for 30 years, and it was when it was open, they were at work, and they were there they were there 6 or 7 days a week, and until they retired. And so hard work has always been ingrained in us from the get-go. And so then to answer your question, I think I remember sort of you'd start seeing awards come in the door for most influential, all of those kind of things. And so I think as a teenager growing up, I sort of understood it, and then now it's next level, and I think her career is pretty incredible.
Yeah, absolutely.
And one of a kind, very much, particularly in the Australian context of things. I think there's very few people who've achieved as much as she has through the business context in Australia. So it's pretty incredible.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah. Okay, now let's go back to basketball.
Yes.
So why basketball?
Why basketball? Basketball is, as a sport, and I touched on it really, really briefly just before, but it's a sport that we've loved always as a family, and so always enjoyed playing growing up, and watching the game and things like that, and it was one of those sports where you know, as a kid, I sort of remember I collected basketball cards and was obsessed with the sport in general. But I sort of said, remember getting a basketball card from Muggsy Bogues, and he was 5'3", and I sort of said I can be a professional basketball player as long as I grow above 5'3", and so that was always wanted to go. As I grew older, kept playing through high school and things like that, and then I remember going to America, and I was like, yep, it's great. And then middle school, and then I was like, okay, I'm on the bench, and I was like, I'm probably not going to be a professional, but I still love the sport, still love being around it, loved everything. And then I think for us, I came back. We moved to America in 2001. I came back in 2004. Mum and Victoria stayed on in the States. I came back to boarding school because we were always going to. They were always going to be moving back next year, and then it was next year, and so instead of me coming back when I was in year 12, I came back a little bit earlier, but I think while I was overseas and while they were overseas and I was back here, it was the thing we talked about. You know, I'm sure you can imagine as a teenage boy, it's the thing that's easiest to talk to them about is sport, and so we talked about basketball, and it's what kept me and my sister close, me and Mum close, and so we've just always talked about it. I think is why it's such an important and special sport for us as a family.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that you played through high school.
Yes.
Do you still play?
I don't play anymore. It's something I love playing. I think now my weekends are taken up a little bit more by my own kids and their sport and things like that. And so, but I think I last had a team that I was playing with a group of guys from school, and we stopped playing. I think it was just right before COVID. I think 2019, and so it's been a few years. I did play in a 3-on-3 tournament a couple of years ago, which was a bit of fun. But I don't play as much as I would like. As I would like.
I do not participate in sport at all, but I will tell you a story. For some reason, I'm not very good at anything, but for some reason I was given the gift of being able to put a ball in a hoop. So I'd say that I probably have a strike rate of around maybe 9 out of 10.
Well, that's pretty
now,
good.
I talk a big game and I could probably back it up. But basketball for me as well is one of the sports of all of the sports that I could watch, and it's the atmosphere and something that you really want to be a part of. Yeah.
And look, it's such a great sport, and it's you know, the participation rates are basically 50-50, so just as many men and women play the game. It's become the second highest participated sport in Australia from a team sport perspective. I think if you go to a game day, you go to a Sydney Kings game, go to a Sydney Flames game, the atmosphere draws you in. It's an indoor sport, and so unlike, you know, rugby or AFL, where you go to a game and you lose the noise through the open ceiling, you can feel the noise in your body as a incredible starting point. And so I think it's such a compelling game. There's lots happening. I think look, it's not a chore to go to a game every week. Like, it's one of those things where I'm like, got to go to work, and it's go to a basketball game, and it's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing at all.
Well, if anyone hasn't been to a game, I would definitely encourage them. I actually was a Sydney Kings member, so go and see a Sydney Kings game or a Sydney Flames game, because the vibe is electric and it is contagious, and just the music and everything that you've just mentioned. It really is a great experience. What are you working on now that you would say that you're most proud of?
So I think for us as a family office, we're involved in a couple of different things, and we help to set strategy on companies and things like that. But it's the execution that I find the most interesting, and the executing on what's happening and the day-to-day changes and things like that. And so I think it's such a varied role that, I was talking to one of our portfolio companies a couple of weeks ago, was, had an offer on the table to be acquired, and was this the right time, and things like that. And so talking to them through there, but then, I look on the hoops side, and where looking through season memberships and what kind of campaigns and how can we get more people to games and things like that, and the execution side of that is really exciting. And so I think it's a very wide range and varied job, and I think that's what makes it so exciting, is that not every day is the same, and I'm not at the office every day, and I'm out on site, or I'm out at visiting one of the companies, or I'm doing this and I'm doing that, and that's what's cool. That's what's cool about it. So it's
the variety would be incredible.
Yes.
And you also mentioned one really meaningful thing to me earlier, which was something that you are working on, which is assisting sports people in what happens when their sports career ends.
Yeah, I think it's such a great thing, and so working with the basketball teams and seeing athletes as they're doing different things, they're so singularly focused on their craft at hand, and it's almost what I was saying with the founders and what we look for there, like the way that athletes look at sport and everything. It's their whole focus, and it needs to be. They've gotten to that point because they've been able to beat everybody out, all of the to get to that single focus. But sport, there is a shelf life on it, and when players get to the end of their sporting life, what does that next step in their career look like? And it's something that we really want to aiming to work with our athletes on is what does it look like post career, and what is that next step going to be? Because what we do see is athletes, when they transition either to be a founder or to workplace and things like that, the teamwork that they have in a sporting mindset is what makes them great employees and things like that, and they can make their teams go. And so we want to work with our athletes on what that next step looks like. We want them to play as long as they absolutely can, but what does it look like afterwards for them? And I think it's such an important thing, and it's something that we want to continue to do better as a sport, and for us as owning the clubs, how can we do that next step for the athletes, and introducing them to our corporate partners, introducing them to various different avenues for them to then go, okay, this is what I might want to do post, because not everybody can be a commentator or a coach or things like that. There's other opportunities for them, and we see there's ex-Sydney Kings players and who have done such incredible things from in media or in entertainment, running businesses. CEO of big Australian companies are ex-basketball players, and I think that's a really cool thing. And showcasing those stories is something we want to do more of. Yeah,
and we spoke about this earlier, that often when you exit a career or a business, you sort of go into trying to determine what is your identity after that. And I would describe it as, even for myself, after exiting my business, going through a bit of an identity crisis where I was attached to the business for such a long time, for 10 years. And then when that ends, you no longer kind of attach yourself to that sometimes. So it's always working out, well, what is next? And I guess for me, it's led me to having these great conversations and through a podcast, because I wanted to remain involved in the founder and the business sphere. So I think that it's a really great thing that you can assist people through that transition.
It becomes your life. It's almost what we were saying earlier, is what we look for in a founder is the people who dive everything in. And so what do you do when that's not there? And so I think what we want to do more of, and with our founders, but with our athletes in particular, is introducing them to different opportunities and different people that could then be that next stepping stone, because it's such an important thing that, as you said, it's sort of there's a sense of loss when it's not there, and the cruel thing sometimes for athletes is it's not always their choice when their career ends, and things like that. And so to be able to see the different opportunities and see the different pathways that are available to them, I think that's a great thing, and something that we aim to do more of.
Yeah, cool. And one last question. If there are founders out there who are at the point where they're seeking support, investment, Is there any advice that you could give to them when they are taking that next step?
I think the key thing is who do you have around you, and so it can be such a lonely journey as a founder, and if you do it with a co-founder, ensuring that you know what the strengths and weaknesses are between you as co-founders is really critical almost at the starting point, because that can lead to conflict that ends a relationship before it needs to. But I think the key is it's surrounding yourself with the right investor base, the right employees, all of that kind of thing, and people who are vision aligned. And so, if you want your business to go here, if you've got an investor who wants you to be somewhere else, well, they might not be the right investor to you. And so, really, really ensuring that you surround yourself with the people who have a shared vision.
Yeah. Okay, great advice. So thank you so much, Matt, for joining us today. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you very much for having me. It's some great questions, and really happy to do it. So thank you very much for that.
And to everyone listening, get to a bloody Sydney Kings or a Sydney Flames game.
Absolutely. Season tips off late September, so looking forward to seeing people out there.
Yeah, cool. Thank you.
Thank you.